It's just very low.
Okay.
And very subtle because it's now time for story time with Terry Foster.
That's right.
The hell's Woodward
Gather
Sports
around,
Service.
boys. Yeah, we're giving you a surprise here.
Tuck your boner in your belt.
I
It's
decided that since you're all my children, you're my sons, you're my, I'm your uncle, you're my nephews, that I want to tell you stories about things that happened back in the day.
Can I ask where you found the soundtrack?
Shh, fish, just listen.
Yeah,
All right.
just listen to Uncle Terry.
This is Uncle Terry talking to the fellas here. Now gather around, fellas. I want to take you back to the year 1997. Uncle Terry was in the Lions locker room talking to some of the boys there. Lomas Brown, Herman Moore. I don't know if Johnny Morton was on the team then, but it was a bunch of them. And they said, guess what we heard? I said, what? Barry was in the locker room saying, I'm thinking of retiring.
This was in 97.
97.
Okay.
So then they talked about it, and we talked about it a little bit when it's, he's not going to retire. But he talked to them about retiring in 1997. So he finishes the 97 season, plays in 98, and then Barry retires. Now, here's a little backstory on Barry retiring. The day of training camp, Barry Sanders called a woman named Risa, who worked in the Lions front office, and asked, what is that exit to Saginaw again? Because the Lions training camp was at Saginaw Valley. So this is training camp's about to start. He calls to find out where is the exit, because he forgot the exit every year. So she told him what exit it was. He said, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. So instead of turning up to training camp, Barry sends a text to the Wichita, Kansas newspaper and says, I'm out of here. I'm done. So that was the first time that the Lions got hint that he was not going to turn in. He wasn't going to show up.
So they had a 2-year jump on it.
No, yeah, they did, but nobody believed it.
Got it.
So then, the day of training camp, he calls someone from the Lions and said, I'm headed up. What's the exit again? So there's no need. You don't think, okay,
right.
What's going on here? So after he shows up in London, and but I was writing newspaper articles at this time saying, don't be surprised if Barry returns to the Lions. Here's why. I was talking to his dad, William Sanders, and the director of security, Jocko Hughes. And they were working on trying to bring Barry Sanders back to the Lions. And Jocko is a former player. He was a lineman, played in the PSL. And he reminds me of Corey sometimes, because when he gets excited, he starts to talk like this. And so I was talking to Jocko, and he said, man, Terry, Barry coming back. I'm telling you, man, he coming back because me and his daddy working on him. And Barry don't want to retire. He want to come back and finish up.
Sound like Tyrone Biggums.
No, it's Corey, man.
That's Corey.
So
what you talking about?
So Jocko Hughes and William Sanders are trying to trap Barry for a meeting. But Barry didn't want to meet with anybody. When he came to town, he would sneak into town and go out without seeing him, including his dad.
Right.
And then finally one day, they trapped Barry in his house. I think it was in Rochester. So anyway, Jocko, hey Barry, what up? And his dad, who thought Barry was the third best running back of all time.
Yeah, Jim Brown was his number one, right?
Jim Brown and Peyton Manning.
Yep.
Not Peyton Manning, but
Walter Payton.
Walter Payton.
Yep.
Were the top running backs of all time. And Jocko actually disagrees. And, oh, man, Barry the best of all time. So anyway, they finally trap him in his house and say, Barry, you got to come back. What is all this about you retiring? And Barry said, no, fellas, I'm out for real. And one of the problems he had was Kevin Glover. Kevin Glover was an all-pro center. Kevin Glover was part of an offensive line that we used to rip on a little bit, but he was a very good player.
Right. Pro Bowler.
Yeah. So they brought in Scott Mitchell and paid him more money than Barry and Kevin Glover and Herman Moore and everybody else. That pissed Barry off.
Oh, he just came off that great season in Miami, though. You had to cash out Scott Mitchell.
No, baby boy, too. It was a great 7 games.
I know.
He had 7 great games in Miami.
Sarcasm.
And Wayne Fonts was like, they gave Wayne a blank checkbook. Go sign this dude.
Yep.
And so they did. But what they needed to do is they needed to take care of the guys who were already in house. Kevin Glover, Barry Sanders. So that upset Barry Sanders, and so that got him to thinking, you know what, this isn't the place for me. I can't win here. They're not taking care of my boys, and they're bringing in this dude. I don't even know if he can play.
So that's what pushed Barry over the edge?
Yes.
Wow.
Kevin Glover.
Wow.
And to a lesser extent, Chris Spielman. Because Chris Spielman, you know, he's the guy that we all look at as the perfect team player. He wasn't happy either, because they were screwing with him with his contract.
How does that make you feel, Stick?
It pisses me off beyond belief. First of all, I'm still, like I talked about earlier in the show, I still hold grudges against Barry for sending a fax. And to know that they knew 2 years prior to that they probably should have traded their best asset and maybe got something for him, even though it would have hurt the Lions' pride at the moment. They could have taken that route. They could have addressed this. They could have not paid Scott Mitchell, who ended up doing absolutely fucking nothing for us. So, yeah, Terry, you're just like killing me this morning with this story.
Sorry, buddy boy.
That's a good story. That's a good story, though.
Come on, Lions, get it together.
Honestly, like when you hear things like this and you realize that it's the organization making these mistakes to lose their best assets, that's when you know there's a problem.
That's why when they signed Frank Ragnow to that contract, I was like the only person in town like jumping for joy. All right, it's a real organization, because
Right.
I know they had this opportunity to do the same thing
And botch.
decades ago with Kevin Glover, and they decided, no, we're going to play hardball with this guy.
Right, and now this is the best offensive line we've had since the 91
Right.
team.
Now, what if they decide, oh, let's play hardball with Frank Ragnow?
Stupid.
Right.
Stupid.
You probably piss off Jared Goff, who hasn't even taken a snap yet. You piss off the rest of the offensive line, and you would have the old Lions creeping back again. That's why I say, you know, even though they haven't won any games under this new regime, it's different now because of the way they handled Frank Ragnow as opposed to Kevin Glover.
Goes back to, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. So hopefully we learned from it, and we're good to go now, right?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, Terry.
Hopefully they are ready to go.